Hello, son, and anybody else who might be watching. I thought I'd try and use the webcam because the video, I don't know, just made a video on my phone of me making of the shrine I've been making, but I don't seem to be able to put it on Messenger or anything. It's too big. So let's see how we go with this. I made 4 videos the other day only because the app would only allow me to video a couple of minutes at a time. Found a new app today that I already had actually, but there we are. Those 4 were about the little book that I'm making. It's just an art project really. I think I told you, Bryn, about it when we were chatting one night. It's an old camera lens manual. You'll see, let's see, there's a page of instructions about camera lens, how to use the lens and so on. It was actually one of the lenses I had with me in Margate when I visited you way back when. Just trying to improve the light a bit. Should be okay. Right, so that's the little book. It was just plain white, like you see. Front had just the name of the lens, a picture of it, and all that sort of technical stuff. I've just covered the front and the back with some images I found in a tourist brochure. The big picture is just a sentence I found again in the brochure. Last night, actually, I made this spine, I guess you could say. It's just paper with, because it looked a bit rough and grubby, and then I've just called it the little book for want of a better name. So there was I found letters and cut them out. Though book is a word, free is a word, and art is a word, which is good. But I had and I haven't yet. I had a tiny little word of the word little that I cut out from somewhere, but I lost it. And now I've just noticed that H and E have fallen off. But that often happens with this stupid glue I use. But once you do it again, it's usually okay. So I'll have to find those letters. Oh, there is the E. It's gone again. They're so tiny, and my fingers are so big. Anyway, so basically what I do is I find stuff and stick it in. That's the first page. That's welcome to the little book. Again, I've written in welcome, but cut out all these letters. That's from a Book Crossings, it's called. It's a site we used to belong to where you get, it's like a fridge magnet, but you get stickers and so on to put in books, and then you leave the books around for people to find, and then they read them and pass them on, and that kind of thing. We don't do it anymore. Well, we do that, but not through that site. That was the very first thing I stuck in the book, an indigenous symbol from a painting from an artist who lives locally here, and it's beautiful, beautiful. This is kind of a yin and yang thing. You'll see that there's a desert road, and this doesn't come up very well, but it's green, so like green grass. And then on this side we have the desert sand. Indian red is the name of the color, but it's very similar to the red of the sand or the deserts in this area. The area is actually called the Big Red, part of the Australian outback, but it's because there's so much red soil. We have it in the backyard here and so on. So that's kind of, oasis, and this is like an oasis of, there's a river and nice trees and foliage and so on. So that's kind of like an oasis in the desert, and that's a desert in the oasis, yin and yang. Not sure how to work out. And quite a few blank pages. Then this one is interesting. I used a triangle to make these shapes. Obviously they're triangle shapes, but then there was a gap where that bit of paper stuck there, and I thought, oh, what am I going to do with the gap? Oh no, I'll just stick something on it. So I found this nice paper, and that's its natural colour. It was just like a blue off a brochure or something. And then I thought I was going to cut this end bit off. I thought, oh no, I'll write something on there. Because what I'd written on inside was, you can't read it. It's terrible, this camera. The space within. Oh, sorry, the space between. And I thought, yeah, it is a space between, but space between can mean many, many things. You know, the space between material and spiritual, the space between me and you, space between a husband and wife, any number of things. And then, or, you know, pets or whatever. And then I thought, I'll cut that off. And I thought, no, suddenly I thought, oh no, I'll leave it and I'll write something on that. And I thought, oh, open up. So, of course, the person looks at it, they open it up, and they see the space between, and they get something to think about. So that was a good outcome for that one. These are two 500 rupee notes from India. The reason they're there is that while we were in India, the government decided to, with this denomination, and I think it was a 2000, I forget now exactly, a 2000 denomination, to suddenly say that these are no longer legal tender. So in other words, we had heaps of these, because, you know, that's 500 rupees is about $10. So we had quite a few of them. And it turned out in the end that we had 10 of them that for some reason we didn't change. So the idea was you go to the bank and you give them the old notes, they give you the new ones. But there was great shortages of the new ones, because in India something like 90% of people don't have bank accounts. And the reason they don't have bank accounts is you need an ID, obviously, to open a bank account. 90% of people don't have ID. You know, they're like, most people don't have driver's license, even though many, many people drive and ride motorbikes and scooters and so on. They don't have necessarily have driver's licenses. And a huge percentage of people don't have a fixed address. Even though they might live somewhere, they don't actually have an official address that's on any bit of paper or document in the government or whatever. So they're sort of undocumented altogether, really. And so when they made these no longer legal tender, because people didn't have bank accounts, they stored all their money at home. So people had, you know, their life savings because these are quite big denomination notes. They had their life savings in these notes, and because they could go into the bank and change them, but you could only change so many. I think it was 2,000 a day. So, you know, that's not very much. So people would have big long lines at the banks, big long queues, and dozens of people apparently died in the queues because it's so hot and crowded, and, you know, dehydrated, and many people died. Many people went hungry because they didn't actually have access to banks to change their money, so they couldn't buy anything. So it was a terrible tragedy. It was inconvenience for us as tourists. And some people actually did go without food and couldn't pay their hotel bill or whatever for a few days because they were lining up in the banks. We ended up going to Western Union and places like that, and using our bank card, debit card, to get money, but they charged 10 or eventually 15%. And again, it was only limited amounts of money until we found one guy that we were able to find to give us bigger lumps of cash, so we were okay. So that's the story of those two banknotes, and interestingly, it's two colours, the sort of the greeny turquoisey and the yellowy orange, similar to the colours of the Indian flag. This one is from a postcard of a painting that we saw in the local art gallery on an exhibition, and it's like a posh house at night, and I've written on the bottom, "There is comfort in the shadows of the night for so very few," because, you know, people are a nice light in the house, you know, at night, and comfortable in their comfortable house, while so many people at night are not. Homeless people, refugees, people in difficult, vulnerable situations. This one's again just from tourist brochures. Picture of the wilderness sanctuary, da-di-da-di-da-di. So basically the book goes on and similar. That's from what's called a P plate, being a P. And here, if you get a driving license, I think for a year or 3 years, I forget what, you have to put one of these on your back of your car so people can see that you're a new driver. And I found one on the road. They're always falling off, so I found one, cut it out, put two in the middle, and the meaning's obvious. The two P's, that's me and Pauline. She's out at the moment in town. Sometimes I just draw designs. I do a lot of that on all sorts of scales, A4 scale. I even did one on A3. It's on the wall. I might take a picture of it for you and message that to you sometime soon as well, because I'm quite pleased how it turned out. Escape into nature, breathe the world. Interestingly, this is from one sentence in a magazine, and it did have escape into nature, breath the world. So I just added the E because I can't stand misspellings of that sort. But it kind of has a meaning too, breath the world, you know. It's like you giving breath to the world too. So it's a two-way exchange. I did this one just yesterday. Living words equals communication, and then of course there's a straight guy in a suit saying, well, everybody got that message. Well, if you think that, it's beyond a joke. Only very few people ever get it. So the meaning's obvious. Using words is about communication. If you don't, and if you think everybody understands that, well, you're crazy, because it's not true. Very few people understand the value, significance of words, and not just their meaning and how you say them, but, well, the meaning, yeah, the deeper meaning of the word. I mean, the primordial sound, Om, is a word, and words make sounds, and everything's made of sounds, and it brings creation into being, and it's very deep, very deep, very deep. That's me. Another design. Sometimes I like to just put colour on paper. It doesn't necessarily have to be any specific design or message or whatever. I just sort of like to fill like this page is basically both sides filled with colour, and I've just stuck a little tree on the corner there. I found that. I got a box of cut out stuff, and I just came across that last night. I thought I'm going to use that, and so that's what I did. So now I'm going to have to fix and find Pauline's getting at the library. They're giving away some old magazines, and also selling lots and lots of books for 20 cents. I'll show you one of them. Just kids' books, right? But this one, it's not very thick. So it's just a hard-covered book. Quite interesting, actually, what's inside. But my idea is to do something similar with this, and I've got 4 or 5 of them, as I've done with this. Bigger job. Well, similar, but kind of bigger. But and it's nice. Got a nice cover, so it can withstand lots of people passing it from one person to another. So that's my little book, 13 minutes and 53 seconds. I hope that's not too long for me to be able to send. I'll probably have to end up putting these videos on my YouTube channel, and then obviously you will have known by now that that's where they are, because you will be watching the video. So look, I love you, son, and I find you such an inspiration. Sorry, talk about words, not inspiration, and inspiration. And I love you. Very, very extraordinary. I don't have words for what I feel. I'm so proud of you. So I'll talk to you soon. Peace out. Hare Krishna.